All right, guys, I'm going to show you some Caro-Kann advanced variation main lines after Qc5. We have a chess goals course on the Caro-Kann, and I'm going to put a link in the description for our free quick start course. It's 10 lines, about 45 minutes of video content. You can get an intro to the chess goals Caro-Kann repertoire. So the game starts out with the advanced variation. We recommend Qc5 in our course. c3, knight c6, knight f3, these are all the main lines. And in our course, we like to focus on what are the most common moves at the club level. This is the most common line after white plays e4 across all variations. And 1e4 is the most popular move. So if you're playing our repertoire, you're going to see these lines very often. So this is kind of bonus content for the course. We recommend to pin the knight and bishop to e2. This is the main line, e6. And at this point, I faced a little bit different move order, but it'll transpose bishop to e3. I recommend you put the knight on e7, heading to f5. Knight c3, knight f5. And what we're doing here is we're putting pressure on this d4 pawn. That's the weakest pawn on the board. I always like to think about what's the weakest pawn on the board. In this case, it's d4. It's a backward pawn, and it cannot be defended by any pawns. There's no c or e pawn to defend it. That's why it's the weakest pawn. Castle, bishop e7. And what we do is we leave this bishop on g4 until white plays h3. After white plays h3, then we recommend grabbing that knight, bishop takes back, and bishop to g5. So this creates a double attack on this bishop, and we have the double attack on this pawn. So we're playing attacking chess from the black side of a Caro. That's kind of the whole theme of the course as well. We want to attack with black. We want to create winning chances, play for the initiative. And at this point, queen to d3 is the move I want to look at. So I had this happen to me in a blitz game. Let me show you the line that we cover in the course first. We look at queen to d2 in the course, and after bishop takes e3, f takes e3, queen g5, we have the double attack on the e pawn. And there are some cool tactics in the course that we mentioned too, where you could maybe play knight takes d4, because if the pawn takes back, the queen hangs. So white actually has to be very careful here. There's only one move for white that doesn't give us a big advantage, and it's rook a to e1. So that's kind of why we chose this line. It was very tricky, and club level players make mistakes here all the time. All right, but let me show you a tactic in this line that doesn't work, but it did work in the queen to d3 line, which is why we're going to change the recommendation in that line. If white plays bishop takes d5 here, he takes d5, and knight takes d5, here we can queenside castle. And at this point, we're up 1 point of material. We're up a knight for 2 pawns. Okay, so keep that sack in mind. We're going to look at it now with the queen d3 line. So after queen to d3, if we play that same style of line with bishop takes, f takes, queen g5, there's now bishop takes d5. Interesting move, because if we take back, which is a huge mistake, there's now rook takes f5, winning our knight. White's already up a pawn, hitting our queen. This pawn's under attack. This is already close to a winning position for white. All right, so we can't play the exact same line after queen to d3. So in this case, after queen to d3, our recommendation is to castle. And now you might be thinking, well, is there still knight takes d5? Let's look at it. Knight takes d5. We play pawn takes. This knight hangs, but we can play knight takes e3, counter tactic. Now this knight is being attacked, so white needs to retreat that knight to take back, and now we can play knight takes e5. The d pawn is actually pinned to white's queen, so material is equal here, but black has an advantage. And the idea is once this queen moves, we're going to take on f3 with check. And now either white takes with the queen, or they have to take with the g pawn. So another option would have been queen e4 and take with the g pawn trying to defend this. But look at that king position. Look at how ugly these pawns are. That's 3 pawn islands. Pawn islands are when there's no pawns on a connected file. So there's an h pawn island, f pawn island, and a d pawn island. Not a good position for white. So that's our recommendation. When you see queen to d3, we are going with castle here. And there's no knight takes d5. All right, so now let's back up just slightly. Let's look at another move that I've seen in a recent blitz game. Instead of queen d2 or queen d3, what if white takes? Bishop takes g5. Here we take back with the queen, forced. And now I saw this move, knight to b5. And the idea is knight to c7 check, forks king and rook. So white's trying to get very active with the knight. And the knight also guards d4 because we had 2 pieces attacking it, and there was only 1 piece defending it. Here we can play queen e7, guard this square. Now there's a very tempting move for white, pawn to g4, trying to kick out our defender of d6 so that knight can sneak in there. So here we can play pawn to a6, and now we have an advantage. So we are fighting for the advantage. We're playing for the initiative. White's worse in this position. The best move is knight to c7 check. Queen takes and then take our knight. And here we can play pawn to g6. And this is a cool move because if white pushes past, let's say, that really highlights how weak white's pawn structure is after we play queen b6, double attacking this guy, queen and knight, and attacking b2. And that bishop on f3 is a terrible piece with the center pawns all locked up. All right, so those are kind of some mainline tips. Now let's back it up a little bit, going to move 7. So this is where we first pin the knight, and I'm putting the full PGN in the description. So if you get lost, you can download it and look at it on your own. At this point, let's look at knight to c3. Another line that I've seen recently. I'm going to recommend pawn to e6, and after bishop e2, quick queen to b6. So that bishop hasn't moved yet. Our knight and queen both pressure d4, and our queen pressures b2. After castles, here we usually say don't take on f3 unless h3 is played, or you can win the pawn on d4. That's another great case to take on f3. So here we're going to take, bishop takes back, queen takes d4, queen e2. This followed my game exactly, and at this point I chickened out and I retreated my queen back to b6. But we should immediately grab this extra pawn because the knight guards the queen, and we're not afraid of any of white's threats. If queen b5 is played, for example, trying to hit b7, you could take the time to play rook to b8. You could queenside castle, or you could even play bishop to d6, threatening a checkmate. Black is much better here, close to winning. So these are additional lines from the Caro-Kann course. Hopefully that helped. If you've been playing our course, you will definitely know these positions. Check out the link in the description. Free Caro-Kann Quick Start course, and we have courses for sale on the website with 30-day money-back guarantees. And I'm always available to help our students. That's one of the major selling points of our courses, is you get a lot of customer support and feedback in our Discord community. It's a private community just for course owners. So please check that out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.